What's up, guys? Welcome back to the
Alright.
Lights Out F1 podcast. It's been too long since I've done it. Um, I haven't been here for a while. Claire graduated, so that's awesome. So we're officially done with college. Jeremy and Jakob aren't here, and they also did not graduate. So only the cool kids are here right now. But yeah, so uh, you guys might have noticed we didn't do a video for the Miami Grand Prix. That's because they're in the middle of finals and also graduation. Um, so let's talk about that first. It's been a while since we watched it, but if you remember it at all, how was it for you?
It was pretty boring. We watched it together.
Yes.
Um, it was pretty boring. I don't know. I would walk away and come back and be like, "Did anything happen?" You're like, "Nope." I was like, "Okay, cool." Um, yeah, Max came back and won it.
Sick
Whatever.
OP2. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. Alonso, of course, got his another third place. So I think that's 4 out of the first 5 races. Uh,
Mhm.
but that's also the last race
15
that
points
yeah,
every race.
yeah. That's also the last race Mercedes will have to do with the current package, though. They are supposed to bring in a new upgrade package. It was supposed to be for Imola. That was supposed to happen this weekend. Of course, we all see that got flooded. So
Mhm.
thoughts going out to the people there, but I don't know. It's still on the topic of Miami. It feels like the Grand Prix there has actually gotten less exciting, but I don't think it's just Miami in general. I think just the Grand Prix so far have been a lot less exciting because Red Bull have again pulled away from the field, and it feels like the teams are in a much more
Mhm.
defined spot. Does that sound like?
Yeah. Yeah, Christian Horner, I mean, he was like, well, where is everyone else? Like
Yeah.
he's just feigning that he's surprised by it or something.
Well, I mean,
I don't know if he actually is or not,
he
but
should be because like the team, like we expected either Ferrari or Mercedes to be at least a little bit closer to them this year, but the closest team to them is Aston Martin.
yeah, I mean, imagine if Aston Martin didn't show up this year. It would
It'd
just
be
be
so
like,
bad.
it'd be so bad.
But also, the other thing is, I feel like the more exciting part of the weekend is now qualifying. Like, I feel like qualifying has been absurdly close
So
almost every
exciting.
weekend. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Azerbaijan was probably one of the best ones so far. You get to see someone else that wasn't a Red Bull take pole position. Um, and in Miami, it looked like Charles was actually on for another pole before he caught a bit of curb, lost all his downforce, and sent it to a wall. I think we
Yep.
should actually make a verb for him, like, oh man, I pulled a Charles, and just like it's because you hit a wall or something.
Yeah. I mean, that guy sees a famous corner, wall, whatever, and he's like, I gotta go for it.
Yeah, this is a new
Um,
track that doesn't have actually named one, so we could actually call that turn. Like, it could be named for him, not for the
yeah.
good reasons though.
Mm-mm.
Ooh, okay. On the topic of naming things, so obviously a lot of famous tracks have a lot of famous names, like the Ascari Chicane, Carver Grande, things like that. Magnets and Beckett's for Silverstone, all those things. Um, Sebastian Vettel, when he was getting ready to leave, he's like, talking about how his name will be, carved into the history of F1 until time and other racers wash it away. Do you think that there should be a corner or a track or like a straight named after Vettel?
Oh, for sure. I don't remember too much of like when he was at his peak of
Mm.
like what would be a perfect like someone will be able to figure out
Yeah.
where he dominated, like where his spot should be.
Hmm.
There definitely should be.
I
I
think,
mean, he's a legend, so
yes. I think probably naming somewhere in Singapore after him because that was probably
huh?
one of his most dominant tracks. Especially that one in Singapore. I think it was 2019. Although he beat Charles for it, but that was like stellar drive from him, and I feel like every single time we see him at that track, like it's just awesome. But of course, he had so many other places that he was just as good at. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so like it's kind of weird because you see all these tracks with all these big names, and it's like these names that are etched into history. But then you see some other big names that there's like nothing named after them. And I feel like, maybe it's because they might
Sure.
have raced at different tracks or whatnot, but like some of the tracks have stood the test of time, like
Hmm.
Silverstone, like Imola, like Monza and things like that, where those tracks have been here since either the beginning or for a really long time, and they have like their definitive name. Like Eau Rouge is probably the most famous one on the calendar. I think like maybe starting to give these things names, although for the commentators that'd probably be a nightmare. It's already bad enough like when
True.
they're
True.
like I think one of the funniest things is when they're commentating on Silverstone and you never hear like like this is turn 14 or whatnot. It's always like an actual name.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
So it can get a little crowded if
yeah.
you add too many names, but Seb definitely deserves
Mhm.
to have his name somewhere.
Yeah. uh Another driver who doesn't have one, he has the third most after Michael and Lewis uh, championships, is Juan Manuel Fangio. Like he doesn't have a single area
Hmm.
named after him, and I'm like, huh, he's got 5 trophies and there's nothing named after him.
I don't know. I mean, some people you just have to know that he was like a legend and
Yeah.
he doesn't need something to be named after him.
Hmm.
Um, Otherwise, it's just sorry, my laptop
Those are,
needs charge. Um, Otherwise, I mean, I don't know. It just has to be right, like
mhm.
the right spot, the right people pushing for it. Like if someone doesn't push for it, it won't happen. So you have to get
um,
a mega fan
okay,
that's in charge of these things to do it.
so let's just go with like a modern great. If Lewis Hamilton were to retire at the end of the year, what track would you have his name at?
Silverstone, what do you mean?
It's got to be hard to put his name there, though. You can't really name anything there after him because it already has names everywhere.
Sure, but I don't know. Where else would you do it?
Brazil?
I'm sure. Yeah, I guess that would be
Yeah,
second. That's spot on. Yeah, if you can't do it at Silverstone, which I definitely would put top because it's Silverstone,
yeah.
then his second home, Brazil, where
Hmm.
he's loved by the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so off of strange things, so Imola was supposed to happen this weekend again, and it didn't happen. All personnel got evacuated. I think all the teams and F1 themselves have donated quite hefty sums to helping with search and rescue and any damages and whatnot. I mean, the entire track is
Yeah.
underwater, so, but the FIA, as far as I'm aware, haven't actually given anything to the people in the affected region compared to F1 as an organization. So I'm kind of curious, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, you're pointing out to me that they are one of the largest sports organizations in the world. Um, they definitely should.
Mhm.
They're kind of setting a bad example by not.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a disappointment to be
Mhm.
honest.
Like when you look around the world and you see things like, let's just look at the soccer world since it is the largest sport in the world. FIFA, UEFA, CONCACAF, basically every major name set up for different regions in the soccer world, they've all donated similar sums to what the teams in the F1 have donated, just to help the region like grow. And it's like when you see something that is as big as the FIA, who governs most, if not all, of your like large scale motorsports, not doing anything to help the region, then it's kind of like, what's the point really? Because you guys have all this money. We know you're a large organization. There's no reason you can't, like, for them 1 million, like F1, or even 10 probably isn't a lot to shell out, and so it shouldn't be something that they should really be hesitant about. And maybe they've been focused on other motorsports or whatever, because of course they do have a much more stacked calendar than just F1. But with an organization of that
Sure,
size, there
F1's
should,
their biggest though,
yeah.
so they should pay attention.
Yeah, and like with an organization of that size, they should have the personnel to be able to be like, "Hey, we should probably give some money to this."
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if there's still. I'm sure there still is a big need
Yeah.
for more donations in the area because it's very bad.
Mm.
You've seen the videos, you've seen the pictures. AlphaTauri is not too far from there.
Yep.
They're minorly affected by it, obviously.
Well, I think they actually use Imola as their
they should
practice track.
I think so too. Yeah,
so
it would make sense.
Them not being affected by that would be phenomenal, to say the least. Another thing I want to talk about is so Formula One. Obviously, they have a YouTube channel that's quite notorious. Like, there's basically anybody who watches F1 also follows the YouTube channel, watches every video that's on there, or whatever. They, I think, have gotten so like sapped out of content for the past like 2 months because of these large gaps in races that they started releasing like the full races of previous years. I think they released 2005. And they released some race from 2005 between Michael Schumacher and
Alonso.
Yeah, thank you. And then they also released 2008 Monaco, and it's just the whole race. And so, like, people who have F1
Give the
TV
people what they want.
Yeah, I mean, people who have F1 TV can see this, but at this point, they're like, just release it for free.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And one more thing. So Jackie Stewart has been working towards helping people with Alzheimer's, and recently he spoke with F1 about it and like how there is a pressing need for it and how he's continuing to, fund and help and trying to get F1 as an organization to help with that. So I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's super important, and I'm very happy that, he's doing that because it affects a lot of people, and there's always, more that needs to be done in that area until it's cured, because it's only going to keep.
Yeah, I also said Alzheimer's. I mean dementia. Keep going. Sorry.
Dementia. Yeah. It's like one and the same. Dementia is just broader. Yeah, that's great that he's doing that. He should. I mean, he's got the platform, and if he can convince anyone to help raise awareness and money, it's great.
Especially given his like notoriety around the paddock. I mean, he is probably one of the more known figures. I think one of the things that a lot of people know about him is he is probably like the best driver to probably never win a world championship, and I mean, so he's probably on top of it. Okay, so we spoke about it briefly, but kind of bouncing back to it, 2 teams are expected to bring massive upgrades to Imola. Of course, now it's going to be in Monaco, which, I mean...
Can we first talk about Imola's long name? Like, what the heck?
Oh my god!
These names are getting out of hand.
Yeah, I'll put the picture of it in, like, on the screen somewhere, but... Emilia Romagna, I think Enzo Ferrari, there's, like, 13
There's
other...
like Qatar Airways as well. Yeah, I was like,
that's so ridiculously long.
It's Imola. Yes. You're making people just call it Imola because no one can remember, put it together.
Even just calling it Emilia Romagna would make more sense, but this is like a sentence for a name.
It's like it's a run-on sentence. There's something not right with it.
That is wild. So
there's so many memes out there about it that everyone's probably seen. I was like, yeah, that's crazy.
Imagine somebody walking up to you and being like, "Are you ready to watch that Grand Prix?" And then you're just like, "What'd you say?" And they're like, "Imola." Oh, that makes more sense.
Yes, yeah. I'll be watching it. Monaco, or not, because it's canceled.
Yeah, so Monaco's coming up this next weekend. Obviously, it's not the most exciting Grand Prix of all, just because most people see it as like a car procession at some point. But I think so. Again, 2 teams were set to bring major upgrades. Mercedes, obviously, being one of them, and Ferrari are bringing a major upgrade for this race, which will be also hugely exciting. I don't think this is a good time to test them, just because Monaco's not a very good place to see where everything is at.
Oh yeah, obviously not, because it's a street circuit. It's very condensed. Like it's not where they were intending for it to be tested at all. It'll still be interesting though, and I think Alonso even said that this is somewhere he sees he might be able to sneak a win if at all this season.
Can you see it?
I can see it. I
Okay.
mean, one round crash and then
Yeah, that's
Alonso's
true.
there ready.
Yeah,
I don't know.
he's
Anything can
notorious for picking
happen.
up on that kind of stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but so there's one not real straight in Monaco, which is the main straight. Everything else is just turn after turn after turn after turn. There's no real good overtaking points, and I think that's why this track has gained such a, you know, name for not really being the most fun thing to watch. There are some super sick grandstands because like watching an F1 car go by with a little sea in the background has got to be really cool. Um, but
Yeah.
do you think that Mercedes will still bring their entire upgrade package for Monaco, or do you think they'll bring part of it and then bring the full one for the following Grand Prix? I think they're
That's
in
a tough
Spain after
call.
that.
I mean maybe. Why wouldn't they though? Like I mean.
I think like so you wouldn't get to test out like first off, Monaco has, I think, like a 50% or more chance of people crashing because it's Monaco and the walls are close and these cars are wide and
Yeah.
yeah. But also, like, so there's that. You really don't want to damage any brand new parts that you may bring, but also, like, it's just not a good place to test things because you're like, especially for Mercedes, who, if anything, they're probably be focusing on how fast they are in a straight line. It's not a good track for testing how fast you are in a straight line. And if you're trying to
Hmm.
test how good you are through high speed or medium speed corners, it's also not a good track for that. Really, the only thing that they'd get to test here is how good they are through low speed corners. And as far as we're all aware,
Okay.
they're already good through low speed corners. So
Okay, so yeah, I can see what you mean. Uh
Alright, sorry about that. We had a bit of a video mishap, but um, go ahead.
all right, so maybe we were talking about Monaco, how it's gonna be a boring race. Well, what do you think of making a mandatory two stop?
Ooh.
Because I think Miami that would have made it more interesting.
Um, that would make
How do
things
you think that'll affect
interesting,
the boring
but
tracks?
I also think that it would make free practices even more boring because right now I feel like a lot of the teams are trying to avoid using one set of tires over another so that they can have them for the race. Um,
Hmm.
and so then people would be using even fewer tires for during free practice, and it's like, okay, well, now all you're gonna see is your entire
What
first.
if they allotted more tires?
Well, I think they're already trying to dial back the number of tires you're gonna be using, and so I think like,
Okay.
yeah, so I don't think it'd be too good.
Well, no one really watches free practice. That's more for the teams.
That's true, but that's still tires that they're not gonna use because they're gonna want to use it for the tire strategy. That and also, I think I can see the ups and downs of it because then you'd have people who would run like on hotter tracks. You'd be able to like run two sets of hard tires or two sets of mediums and whatnot. And it also you see the soft tire more during the race because I feel like during the races right now it's really just hards to mediums or mediums to hards. And I think one of the commentators did a
Yeah.
really good job of describing it. Pirelli have done too good of a job with the tires, so they stay for far too
Mm,
long.
yeah. Okay. Now I'm gonna say something, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the fact, but it's a fact. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not including first lap incidences and anytime someone's DNF'd. Max hasn't been overtaken yet, but he's made 20 overtakes. Isn't that
That,
crazy?
I mean, sort of. So, I guess if you avoid the
He has not
first
been
lap,
overtaken by anyone.
yeah, he was overtaken by both Mercedes on the first lap in Australia.
And not pit strategy.
Yeah,
But like on track,
yeah.
no one has overtaken him.
Outside the starting procedures.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's not surprising. I
What do you
mean,
think of that?
you're not really gonna overtake somebody who's got the best car. I mean, odds are it's probably the same thing with Checo. Honestly, like I don't think anyone's really overtaken Checo. He came
Yeah,
back from
he's been
Australia.
overtaken on track.
Outside of Max, I don't think he has.
He had.
When?
I don't know by who, but yeah,
Because
he
he
has.
got the first place in Saudi Arabia there in the second race, and he got P2 in the first race. Um, and he wasn't overtaken by Max because Max just started off in first and kept that. Saudi Arabia, he started off in first and ended off in first. Um, what was the third race this season? We were at Australia, where he started from P14 and he wasn't overtaken at all. He was just overtaking other people. And then the fourth race of the season, we were at Baku, where I guess he wasn't
Okay,
overtaken on
I
track.
don't know about. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's been overtaken though, like in fights and stuff.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
I guess yeah. I mean,
Every fight
it's
that
not
Max gone into, he's won.
it's not surprising. I mean, when you really have to think that far, even for Checo in a Red Bull, it's not that surprising. Like, I think it's just you have the best car, and your car is just too good to lose in a fight.
Okay. Okay. Now, what about? Okay, so F1 traditionally very European sport,
Yes.
right? Imola was supposed to be the first European race of the season.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of weird that now, like, they're not starting in Europe? And Europe is just like a leg of the whole thing.
Well, I think
It's
it's
not the majority. It's just a part of it.
yeah. If I had to put a finger on it, I mean, Europe still has the most races on the calendar out of any country, or out of any continent. But I think it's primarily just because if you start the season, well, first off, it's depending on track. First off, like you can't start the year at Imola or something like that because, quite frankly, it just wouldn't be an exciting way to start the year. I think Bahrain is a perfect start to the year. Super exciting track. The teams get a lot of experimenting time with them. You get to see new cars and all that good jazz. Um, and then Australia, of course, has always held a close place to the start. It used to be the start. I think in 2020 it was the first one just because COVID. And then Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
another really exciting race to have. It's your second race. I wouldn't even mind if that was the first one, honestly. But I think it's more to attract other crowds because I think,
Yeah,
especially America, like if you look at those ones, Miami comes
for
before any
sure.
of the European tracks, and it's like you get so many fans out there, albeit it's a wildly expensive race.
Well, now that I mean, got to spread out the U.S. races apparently,
Yeah,
because now there's. But yeah, so I mean, F1 is just changing so much. It's pretty crazy that it takes I don't know how many races, 5 races to get even into Europe.
yeah. Well, six if you're counting where Imola starts, but yeah, it is the sixth race on the calendar,
Yeah,
and it is. I'm glad it's not a. I'm glad it wasn't a sprint, just because first off, I didn't want to lose a sprint this year. I actually like all the places that the sprint's happening at. I think Baku was a great place to start off with it. Last year's Imola sprint was pretty boring, so not really much of note there. And I think most people will probably have the scars of watching Max get 37 points from the Imola weekend. So
yeah.
probably not the best place to have a
I
sprint.
I'm still split on if I like sprints or not.
I like them, and I think for situations like what happened at Imola where we lose a race, it's great to have
Extra
Jakob was
points
actually
up
saying
for
like
anyone.
uh, they should have a contingency race in the event that you aren't going to have one. But there's two problems I see with that. One, having a race be like, hey, we like your track, just not enough to have it as a starting lineup track. Like you're solid backup material, and also the amount
Yeah,
of time that it takes to set up a track. Like like a lot
for
of these
sure.
things, like you don't just go to them on Friday and you're set up. They get these things set up like weeks ahead of time, and so I don't think having a contingency
Mhm.
one would work very well. But I think the sprints kind of make up for it.
Honestly, it's not needed when there's this many races
Yeah.
in the season. If one gets canceled,
Hmm.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, uh, kind of skipping over Monaco just because it's not really a fun talking point because it's not a fun race to watch. Um,
It's a spectacle just like Miami.
yeah. Well, Miami
But
actually has
more
overtaken.
it's classier. It's classier than Miami.
Well, Miami is
Uh
apparently just as expensive now. It is insane how
yeah, but
expensive
it's so
Miami
cheesy
is.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know. don't know. So wait, what did you think of the driver introductions
Um,
in
it was
Miami?
definitely American, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think European countries do it like that,
Oh,
but
cliche.
yeah, it's it was kind of cool. It just wish that the race was as exciting. I think, like I said, qualifying so far has been the most exciting part of almost every weekend, save for Baku. Bahrain, obviously, I'm gonna say is a good one just because like Williams got a point, but I think Bahrain's kind of not representative of where the teams are on other tracks, solely for the fact that they get hours and hours and hours of testing time for on that same track. And so it's like, okay, well, rather than saying you have 3 practice sessions, you've actually had the equivalent of like 4 or 5, maybe 6 practice sessions to get ready. So if you're not ready for the race by then something's wrong there.
Yeah. Our hometown hero, Logan Sargent,
Mm-hmm.
had a bad race in Miami.
Yes.
Um, I've seen things say Toto might be pushing for Mick to get the Williams spot
Mm-hmm.
and kick Logan out.
So
What do you think of that? Do you think James Vowles might be open to that?
So actually, I've been looking at a few things about this because a lot of people, I mean, Jakob included, are not the largest fans of Logan Sargent, and I'm not sure it's because of the fact that he's American or anything. It's just he's not showing his pace yet, and I'm like, okay, nobody shows their pace in the first race, especially not now where F2 races like a lot of the tracks that we've been to so far have been tracks that he's seeing for the first time. No rookie especially in a Williams, is going to do spectacular in tracks they've never seen before. Like, even if he is from Florida, he's never seen that track before. He's never been to the Australian circuit before, or Saudi Arabia. He did race at that one. Bahrain, they do race at, and what was the other one? Baku, they don't. Or I don't think he did. But it's like a lot of these tracks are ones that they don't really get used to. Whereas once you get what gets
Yeah.
tracks that he's probably more known about or knowing of, I feel like he's probably gonna do better. I'm really excited to see how he does it in tracks like Silverstone in Austria, where all the races are exciting, not just the F1 races, but the F2, FW, and Formula. Like any races that are held in Austria are always fun because there's so much overtaking that goes on.
Yeah. Do you know if W Series is continuing?
I believe they are. Yeah, they found replacements for a lot of the drivers that went over to the academy. Plus, I mean, the academy did
Okay.
take a lot of their drivers, but
Hmm.
I'll have to double check that. Don't quote me on that.
Okay. Yeah. Also, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but Logan Sargent did a GQ interview of like the things he must have,
Hmm.
like when he travels and stuff. It's pretty cringe worthy. You should watch it.
um,
Dude, he like literally says he like takes this,
uh,
like this is his signature pose.
yeah,
Like I don't
yeah.
know.
I mean,
It looks like
that's
the
the pose
Rio
he
de
used.
Janeiro thing. Like I don't know.
That's the pose he did when he won his race at Silverstone in F2. So,
Hmm.
just kind of like the spreading eagles. Um,
Yeah.
But so okay, I was looking, and obviously, I think, or not obviously, I think a lot of people like now that we're seeing how fast these cars are getting compared to last year. Like we're almost 2.5 seconds faster than we were last year, and that's like representative across the board. But
Hmm.
the I forget what it's called. I think it's F1 Fanatic or something like that, where they draw the racing lines of cars and show them like how laps are done.
Yeah.
And the give me 1 second. The way that they show it is one of the coolest
This
things
video
ever. And they show the difference between the speed of the 2018, 2019, 2020 cars versus the speed of like Max Verstappen's car or Charles Leclerc or whatever now. Like they showed Lewis's 2018 Singapore qualifying lap versus Charles' 2022 qualifying lap, and it's like those cars were so fast. And maybe it's because they're pulling like the fastest people from it, but when you see the fact that like these people are holding almost identical racing lines the entire way through, you can see where they're gaining like a few hundredths at a time. But then there's other times like the old cars were also super fast in a straight line, probably because they're a
Yeah.
bit more narrow and didn't have as much to carry, but like they were really fast in a straight line, and it was all like it's kind of cool to see. Um, I would highly recommend going to see some of their videos if you haven't yet.
F1 fanatics.
I don't want to say it is. I'll give you a much more definitive name on it afterwards, but yeah, super super fun to watch.
Yeah.
I highly recommend just because you get to see how fast the old cars were. I think we lose like concept of
Yeah.
how like when one's so much faster than the other one because the cars are just really fast all the time. But yeah, and
Yeah, for
so
sure.
watching that's super fun.
Okay, another rumor that I heard was that Alpine wanted Mattia Binotto.
Yes.
So, do you think they're unhappy with Otmar, or like what's going on with that? Because that's some interesting juicy
Mhm.
bits.
Um. So I think one of the things that they're kind of frustrated about is the fact that um, they brought their upgrade at a really poor time. Baku being the first sprint happened to also be the time when they brought their upgrade package. Um, Same as McLaren, I think. And it didn't like they didn't get to see much of it. Pierre had problems during practice. They had problems during qualifying and during the race. I didn't get to see much out of it, and the drivers clearly weren't comfortable with the car. Australia, they crashed into each other, and Miami just wasn't a good showing for either of them. So I think the frustration is coming from the top. I think his name is Laurent Rossi. That's the owner of Alpine. But he's
Mm.
I think he released a public statement saying it's not enough from his team and whatnot. Not Mark Schaffner kind of rebutted like there's no pressure on him apparently that he's feeling, but uh, I could see them trying to get Mattia Binotto maybe in a more technical capacity rather than as a team principal. I don't think he wants to go back to being a team principal right now. But another
Interesting.
side to that coin is that Mattia is still technically getting paid by Ferrari this year, and so in the same way that
He can't work no.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I don't nothing that would materialize this year, but I can see maybe some slight shuffling at Alpine at the end of the year if they can't get their situation together. That being said, I have a feeling that they'll get it together. I feel like they're still probably the fifth best team on the grid. So
Okay. One more random topic.
uh,
Scotty James, the Red Bull snowboarder,
mm,
best friends with Danny Rick. He just got married to Lance Stroll's sister.
that's kind of funny.
It's super funny, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so they were all at a wedding last weekend, hanging out, having fun.
Hmm.
I just thought that was super bizarre. That
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's just funny.
Yeah. Um, Also, the name of that channel was Formula Addict. It's all like the videos are
Okay,
like 2 minutes or less. They're basically TikToks, but they put them on YouTube. Um,
okay.
but yeah, it's super cool. They show you the race line and whatnot. I think that Monaco is kind of like a skimming point. Like, there's not much to talk about there. It's like, okay, the two things you look out for are who actually got an overtake done and
Mm,
who crashed.
okay.
Because there's nothing really to.
Yeah,
Every overtake at
I want to
Monaco is
see
a
some. I want to see
spectacle.
some liveries. Okay, let's get us some special edition liveries.
For Monaco? No, nobody ever
Let's
does that.
golf with McLaren.
I guess, yeah, but like, I don't know. It's just not something you see very frequently.
I don't know, man. I want to go to a Monaco race just for the heck of it.
Hmm. It's not something I would enjoy personally, just because like if
Oh
I
my
was
god,
somewhere, I'd have to see.
you would enjoy it.
I'd have to go somewhere where like there's a lot of
The
overtaking
rate
that would
going
be
to a
happening.
race is about having fun, less about actually watching the race.
I don't know. I personally like actually watching. Um,
Well, of course, but you're not gonna get the full picture of it.
yeah, of course, it's not the same as watching on TV. I'd probably assume that much, but I guess a primary one would be like if I was in Silverstone last year during that overtaking fight between Lewis Charles and Checo after the safety car.
You would just wish you were in the right spot.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like I'd have to go to a race where like I was at a corner where there would be a lot of overtaking, and at Monaco there's no corner that has a lot of overtaking. So
Okay. Well, yeah.
that being said, Spain's after Monaco. That I'm excited for. Like that'd be a Grand Prix I'd love
That'll
to
be fun.
watch. One of the longest right-handers on the calendar that's at full tilt. Um, and I think all the drivers like the track. It's such a good track. What are your thoughts on?
Hopefully, for Fernando, there will be no pain in Spain.
Yeah, yeah.
And Carlos.
I don't think it.
Carlos.
Yeah, I don't think
Red
he'll
chili
be able
pepper
to.
sauce.
I don't think that Fernando's gonna win in Spain per se, just because I don't think they're ready for that. But um, one team I'm kind of excited to watch in Spain is McLaren. Not for any purpose, because like they're not bringing any upgrades to Spain as far as I'm aware. But
Ah,
I feel like that's a track that
Paul McLaren.
I feel like that track and
Woo!
Monza are ones that Lando's, in my opinion, I think he's pretty good at. And so I am excited to see them in that. I just want to see the rookies do better. Logan Sargent, I don't think many people are expecting much out of him anyways, just because he didn't have the best junior
They're all
career.
at the back.
Yeah, I don't think they're
So
expecting
sad.
much out of Logan anyways because he didn't have the best junior career and he's with Williams. So not a good junior career with the worst team on the grid. Well, almost. I'd say Alfa Romeo is probably not as good right now, but um, and then Nick DeV like so Logan Sargent is kind of where we expected, not doing great. Oscar Piastri, I expected him honestly doing worse than this at this point, but whichever. And I'm still hoping that, but for your sake, I won't. I think still to this point, the most underwhelming driver has been Nick DeVries, and probably right ahead of him has been Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah.
The cars just suck. Like I don't know what's going on with Alfa
Yeah.
Romeo, but it's tough.
We need to get back into that because we have talked that to death and there are no answers.
Yeah.
But yeah, like as we've talked about before as well, that Yuki's not doing too bad, but Nick definitely is. So
Yep. Nick and
driver diff,
Logan still the only two drivers to not score a point so
not
far.
score points.
That's kind of wild to think about because even Joe has scored a point so far.
Hey, don't be hating on Joe.
I'm not hating
Okay.
on him. It's just like I feel like last year Joe was a rookie and like he had points. I think his first points came in Canada. No, he got his first point at the start of the year. Actually, I take it back. He scored a point in
Really?
Bahrain last year. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. This year's rookies aren't good enough yet. I don't know what it's gonna take for them to
They're
get
not.
better.
They're not
I think the reason that
trying.
after thinking about it, like we talked about why Logan was struggling because obviously he's had a bunch of tracks he's never been to or doesn't know very well. I think the reason that
Yeah.
Nick DeVries has so much disappointment from everybody is because of how much time he spent on the Formula scene. He spent 3 years in Formula 3, another 2 in Formula 2, spent another
Yeah.
2 in Formula E. He did 2 years in both
And
Formula
scored
Renault.
points.
Yeah, he won all of
Scored points
those.
in a
Yeah,
Williams,
so like
which
he should be doing better than this.
yeah.
And it's like yeah, and you can't even say it's not for
Okay.
having driving that type of driving experience because it's
Question:
there. Yeah.
do you think Nick DeVries would have done better in the Williams?
That's tough.
Like
Probably yeah,
we
honestly.
talked about like Oscar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's driven it
Yeah, you think
before.
so?
I think because he's driven it because I think to Jakob's point before, I think he's used to a Mercedes engine. I think he's used to the way that the Williams already drives, given the fact that he's driven the Williams quite a few times. So, and the
Yeah.
AlphaTauri is not fantastic. So, I mean, I still think it's better than the Williams, especially given Yuki's performances. But that could also just be down to driver. I still think Albon's better than
Yeah.
Yuki, but they both scored a point each. So, and I think that's the only
I
point for
mean,
both their
okay.
teams.
Look at like Daniel Ricciardo's career. Like
Yep.
he went to places where he thought he could drive better. Like the car just didn't fit his driving style. Like
Yep.
when it came to like the McLaren.
Mhm.
So like even if the car was like good, if you're used to a certain way of driving, it won't work for you.
Yeah.
Like it obviously worked well for Lando in some situations,
Well,
like
I
because
think
it fits Lando.
yeah, I think that's the difference between an older and a younger driver is that uh, Nick DeVries probably has an established driving style, and the AlphaTauri is not fitting
Hmm.
it.
For
Even if
sure.
it's from different driving series, but like the two young drivers don't actually have an established style of driving. I don't think Lando did either, and that's why Lando's so okay with the McLaren the way it is because he's like,
Hmm.
you know, I don't have an established way of driving. I just use the car that's given to me. Whereas Daniel Ricciardo
Yeah.
and Nick DeVries are both like, I like a car with a strong front end, or Nick DeVries is probably like coming from Formula E, like I want a car that can turn better, and then you go into an
Hmm.
AlphaTauri and like
Yeah.
it's like these cars don't turn like Formula E cars.
Hmm. That's for sure.
Yep. Speaking of Formula E, just a quick sidestep. It's heating up at the front. I think at the start of the year, a lot of people, including myself, were thinking that it was going to be a battle of Jake
You were
Dennis.
like, it's gonna be
Jake Dennis.
so
Well, no, a
easy.
lot of
Like,
people were like, it's going to
there's
be
not gonna be
Pascal
any
Wehrlein. I
competition.
didn't say that. First off, I thought it was going to be a
You
battle
did.
of.
I'll find.
Anyways, I thought it was going to be a battle like Pascal Wehrlein versus Jake Dennis, and now those two aren't even in the like. I think they've both moved down a spot, and another English driver is taking over, and then Mitch Evans has finally pushed himself back up the grid, which is nice to see because he was, I think, the runner-up during the year that Stoffel Van Doren won, and so
Mm.
it's kind of exciting to see the whole grid heat up. I think this is kind of how I wish Formula One was more like this, where this year is a new regulation period for Formula E, like new cars, new looks, the whole thing, and like it's super close battles. I don't think you see anyone winning more than 2 races in a row right now. And I wish Formula One was kind of like that last year, where it's like, yeah, it was like that during the first few races, but I wish it would kind of hold that consistency of the like anonymous who's gonna win this type of race. But at some point, it's just like who's gonna have the opportunity to take third place after Checo and Max.
Yeah. Yeah.
So question
I'm still
pertaining,
holding out hope
yeah.
for Checo to win the championship.
Oh yeah, I mean they're still only 2 race wins apart, so nothing insane.
Have Have you checked our fantasy? I
I
haven't.
have not. I can pull it up real quick. But I do have a question. So, one of the big
Mhm.
things that we've been kind of focusing on is the Mercedes upgrade. I think everybody's waiting for the Mercedes upgrade to see how they do. Are you expecting the Mercedes car to look like have different side pods?
I don't think so. I think they're gonna go with a different floor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, excuse me, different floor design, but they have surprise. I feel like I would have heard about that by now.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yes,
Because
maybe.
I can you repeat it one more time because I think your Wi-Fi cut
Sure.
out
I
there.
feel like they. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it? So they've been really sticking to the no pods, right?
Mm.
So I feel like we would have heard about it if they made like substantial changes. So I don't think they're gonna do that. They've been very adamant that they're not gonna do that. But this could also be in their ear saying like, it's not working. We should try something different.
That's true,
I don't know.
but also, like we are talking about the king of the sandbag, right? Like, if anyone's known to
Yeah.
hide their performance and hide what they're capable of, it's probably Mercedes. So I don't think it'd be beyond the shadow of a doubt that
Yeah.
they would bring in, like, I think they said they were bringing in a new side pod, but I'm not sure if it's a change in concept or just
Oh,
a kind
okay.
of change in the current model. But I think
I just want performance, man.
yeah. Would you think it was funny if they had similar side pods to Red Bull and actually put a bull on top of it?
I would love that. I think that would be super funny. I don't even care. I don't even care if they put a whole if they ended up being like, we'll free sponsor Red Bull, like whatever. Put a Red Bull sticker on the side of the car. I don't care. Anything to get closer to like actually challenging for wins, please.
Mhm. Um,
I don't know. Like what are people supposed to do?
Yeah.
This happens. Like a team gets it right, and then eventually all the teams converge on like what they see is like the fastest way to get their car to. People
Yep.
did it to Mercedes, and I hate that it's Red Bull that got it right, but they really did get it right.
Yes, they
So
did. What was I gonna say? Oh, so Red Bull have won all the races so far this year. Uh, I'm kind
don't
of.
remind me.
I mean, it's blatantly out there. It's 5 races, 5 wins. It's can't hope for more for them, but well, maybe Checo getting P2 in
Yeah.
Australia, but hard track to overtake on. Um, so out of curiosity, which team do you think is going to be the first one to take a race off Red Bull, if any?
I want to hope Mercedes does with the upgrade. Martin is the most likely candidate, even though
Mm,
they're like they don't even really show any challenge. So it's so hard to say.
yeah,
It will have to be a fluke. Like something happens where Max is incapacitated, he can't compete, and that's why
both Red
someone
Bulls
else
just
gets the
shut
race
down.
win. Yeah, so something like that has to happen. It's not going to be like someone outperforms them
Hmm.
on pace, race pace. So
Yeah,
I don't know. You never know. I
yeah.
am hoping that this wind tunnel penalty actually kicks in and has some effect, but I'm
Well,
not.
it'll come in during the second half of the year,
I
and
don't really know if that's going to happen.
yeah, it comes in during the second half of the year, and by that point, they'll already have started developing their 2024 car. But it kind of segued nicely into my next question. Uh, do you think Red Bull will still be as dominant as they currently are the second half of the season, knowing that they have that development progress stunted severely?
Uh, yes. I mean, their race pace is like, and no one's even coming close. Like, okay, second half of the season, maybe some other teams will get like a pole or something like Ferrari or something like that.
Hmm.
Uh, that's fine. I can see that happening. But then again, like all these teams with their reliability at the beginning of the year issues, like they're going to be racked with penalties
Oh yeah.
in the second half like crazy. So it's like Red Bull is going to still look dominant, even
Hmm.
if they're suffering from a penalty. I don't think they're going to be that far behind all the other teams with how they're suffering.
Hmm.
Don't you think? Like it kind of like balances out.
Yeah, I think a lot of I forgot already that Charles is on his second gearbox and on
Dude,
his second
he's
control electronics.
close to having these. He's definitely going to be in the back of the grid for like multiple races towards the end of the
Yes.
season.
Yes. Um, I'm kind of curious.
Ah,
So, mhm, who do you think, based on the current way that things are going, is going to end out getting last place in the constructors this year?
oh, last place.
Yes.
Um, Honestly, I would say Nick DeVries the way things are going,
No, sorry, I
but
said
I feel like he could
constructors, not
pull.
drivers.
Oh, okay. Well, AlphaTauri has Yuki to pull them up. Um, Williams, Haas is doing okay. Honestly, I would Alfa Romeo. They literally haven't done well in the second half of any season.
Oh,
And they're not doing well in the first half, so I don't know what their problem is.
yeah.
It's either Alfa Romeo or Williams.
Hmm.
Sorry.
Ouch. It's fine. So,
Ouch. What do you think?
I was gonna say AlphaTauri. I think Yuki's gonna pull his weight, but I don't think Nick is gonna be able to.
I mean, he's so close to getting those like one-off points. I don't know.
No,
What?
no, he's
How
not.
many points do? What do you mean?
Nick?
No, Yuki.
Oh yeah, Yuki is. Nick's not even close.
No, no. No. Okay, Williams only has Alex to rely on.
Yes,
Yuki is for Alfa Romeo.
AlphaTauri.
I mean, at this point, yeah, AlphaTauri, and then at this point, it's Joe that's working hard for Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, he
Okay,
is.
Valtteri's like having issues left and right.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I think those are your bottom three teams.
I think of those three right now, I think Alex is the
Thank
best of
God,
them.
McLaren. got out of there.
True.
Honestly, they were
Oh,
looking like they were worse than Williams for
yeah.
a couple races there.
Worse than everybody. Question.
Yeah.
So Valtteri Bottas talked to some people. I forget who it was, but he said he has like
Bottas.
he wants. He's planning on staying in the sport for many more years.
I want to see him go back to a top team. Why can't he go to like Aston Martin? Why? Kick Lance out
You
and
can't.
put him in.
You know you can't. If you kick
Honestly,
Lance out, Lawrence is leaving as
him
well.
and those, that was such a great duo. He is an awesome teammate to anyone. You're like, just put him in with make him your second driver. He won't like it, but he knows how to do it.
Mm-hmm. I think he's also relaxed quite a bit since he went to Alfa Romeo. Like, he doesn't seem as high strung as he was at Mercedes.
Definitely not.
You know,
Honestly, he has it in him to win a world championship if he has the chance.
I don't think anymore. No, I think previously yes, but not anymore. I think his best chances to win
I have become a Valtteri Bottas fan,
of course,
after he left Mercedes.
Yeah, I think everyone has. It's the same thing that happened with like Seb after he left Red Bull. Like, you see somebody with a dominant team for so long, and then like you kind of start to develop like not a hate, but like kind of like a resentment toward the fact that they're so good with a dominant team, and then they go to like a poor team and they like struggle, and you can see how good they actually are, but you can also see them like, yeah, exactly. And like with Seb, he went from being probably one of the most disliked figures in the grid to probably one of the most favorite people to ever leave the grid. And I feel like Valtteri's probably going to end up being the same, but I think his best chances to win a world championship were from 2017 to 2021 if it weren't for the fact that they established him as a second driver immediately. I think that was probably his best chance.
The way they treated him.
Awful.
So bad.
Like, Fernando Alonso showed us clearly what it's like to like be like, no, I'm not taking that.
Yeah. I would like to see him back at Williams. What do we think about that?
That's hard. James Fallis has already voiced his opinion on Logan Sargent and whatnot, and he said he's planning on keeping him for the long term. So, quite frankly, I don't think anyone's going.
Well, what about Alex? Where does Alex go?
He loves Alex. Everybody at Williams loves Alex because
everyone loves Alex. But is Alex like happy being?
I mean, I think he's happier there than he was at Red Bull. Maybe, yeah, he was in a competitive car at Red Bull, but he's also
in a midfield team.
I feel like he's developing Williams into a midfield team. I mean, see, that's the thing. I don't understand where people's like distaste or a misunderstanding comes from when it comes to how good Williams are. Actually, they do have mistakes up and down, but like, I don't see a McLaren qualifying P6 in Australia, or I don't see any of that.
Well, McLaren had a problem in the beginning of the season.
No, this is Australia.
Don't talk about it.
Okay, they scored points there. The only reason they scored points is because triple restart and probably like one of the worst executed races ever. But I think
we don't talk about.
I think Alex Albon shows that the Williams can be one of the better midfield teams, and I think
it can be.
Yes,
but it's not.
I think their car is better than a lot of other people's, honestly. And that might be a little bit biased just because I am a Williams fan, but also, like, we have a driver who's showing that, like, over one lap.
Are you a Williams fan?
No. I think we've shown that over one lap and in certain areas we are much better than other people. Like, still obviously we capitalize on straight line speed because, quite frankly, it's the easiest place that we can exploit. But I think as we start to bring in more and more upgrades with very limited budget we have, I think we'll start eking out a bit more pace from the car. And I think as Logan Sargent starts to get a bit more time with the car and a bit more time with the team.
I think it's so funny how you you identify with the team.
Yes, it's awesome.
You start looking about pace for them.
I love looking at everything. Okay, the thing is, underdog teams are so cool. because you actually get to see them build from the ground up. Whereas I think that's the reason I hate watching Mercedes, because they kind of just started off good and never weren't.
What do you mean?
They started off as Braun.
It was a huge risk, though, for Lewis to move to a Mercedes.
Eh,
His first year, he did not win.
of course not, no. But I
Come
don't.
on.
The thing is, like, I'm not talking about Lewis. I honestly couldn't care less about Lewis's move. I'm talking about Mercedes as an organization. They weren't ever at the back. They've never been even in the bottom 5.
You want to know what Mercedes?
Sorry, say that again without the interference.
Mercedes. You know what? Do you know what their tagline is?
No.
The best or nothing.
Yeah, so they definitely weren't the best at one point.
Yeah.
Kind of nice to not see them be the best, honestly, because I watching Mercedes struggle down in 3rd place has probably been one of the highlights of my season.
Oh my god.
Yep. And that's not even because I like Red Bull like that. It's just I like watching the Mercedes team struggle. When
Dude,
giants fall and the
liked-
worst people start coming up, it's a nice thing to watch.
Who are the worst people that are coming up?
Aston Martin.
Okay, well, as we've said before, it's gonna come out that they did something sketchy to get the car where it is.
Who knows?
Who knows?
I don't know. It's nice to see though.
Anyway, should we wrap it up, or do you have more to talk about?
No, I'm good.
This random episode.
Yeah, I mean it's been entirely random. Off the topic of F1 real quick, we are probably gonna try being a bit more consistent with like coming out with these as the weekends go on. We just had a very mixed up schedule with everybody, given that, like I said, Claire was graduating. I had a graduation party. The 2 guys have also been pretty busy. So, but next weekend we have Monaco.
Monaco.
Hopefully there will be some
I'm
cool
just
things to
excited
talk
for a
about.
race.
Yes, just F1 coming back. I mean, we had a 4-week break from Australia to Baku. And I really don't want another 4-week break ever again, dude. Waiting over the winter was hard enough. Not a whole month again, please. But until next time.
Thoughts and prayers to everyone, and
Say it again. I got interference.
did you hear what I said?
No.
Just thoughts and prayers to everybody out in Italy.
Yeah.
The flooding. Hope everyone stays safe and it gets cleaned up, and I want to see us race at Imola again.
Yep. But until next time, that's all we have for you.
Let's lights out, and away we go.